What's up, everyone? This is Silver Slayer, and welcome to my daily 10 a.m. video. I want to thank you for tuning into this incredible video. You are not going to regret clicking on this one. Trust me. Now, I would love for you guys and gals to participate. Right after you like the video, comment down below what you think about this stuff. Even if you just got a coin today, let us know. I mean, we all share the same passion. I want my channel to be more of like a community instead of just focused on me. Now, this is going to be huge, especially since we're starting to see a reoccurrence with Wallstreetsilver, right? The Hunt brothers cornered the silver market, and shortly after, silver hit $50. So some people say it was because of them, but they got in a lot of trouble for this as well. And there's a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of, just people saying stuff. But I wanted to get the facts. I wanted to get to the bottom of this, so I did some digging. I skipped a lot of articles, and I found the cream of the crop. I found the good stuff. So we're going to be going over that. There's actually videos that I'm going to be showing that we'll watch together as well. So this is going to be some great content. So make sure you like this video, because this is one of those videos that getting this information is priceless, right? This was a staple in the silver stacking world, not even just the silver stacking world, in the investing world, period. And especially since Wallstreetsilver is doing something similar, I want to understand this story entirely and then kind of compare it, right? So anyways, the link to these two articles will be in the description. Let's jump straight into it. So this is the real Hunt brothers silver story. And I say real because, like it even says right here, there is a difference between the mainstream version of what took place and what actually happened. So you might not even know about some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. You might have heard a different version, watered down, but this is supposed to be, the truth. So the other side of the story, the Hunt brothers were simply hedging against coming inflation. So the video, which we'll be watching together, presents the other side of the story, that the Hunt brothers were really just worried about the state of the USA, the US dollar, and inflation arriving. So they were simply buying more and more silver as a hedge against this, rather than the mainstream version that the brothers were simply cornering the market to make an outsized profit. And I mean, that could make sense. I mean, look at Wallstreetsilver. I mean, a lot of those people are investing. I mean, there's a lot of gray area, because yes, you're investing to make profit, but you're also investing because of inflation. So, I mean, it's not so black and white. So rather than the mainstream version that the brothers were simply just cornering the market to make profit, the video shows the lengths that those in control went in order to maintain the semblance of an order in the markets. And yes, I mean, think about it. If this story was huge back then. So imagine if everyone thought that and saw that they were just buying silver because the US dollar is collapsing. The government doesn't want them to know that. They're going to just make it seem like they're two bad guys, like they're just, they're doing this for the wrong reasons, for illegal reasons. So there are a number of articles you could read on the topic, but these two videos, totaling just over 20 minutes, give a good rundown of much of what is written elsewhere. The video's content is taken from the likes of Larry Laborde and his HL Hunt Boys and Circle K Cowboys article, along with Stephen Fay's Beyond Greed and Jeffrey Williams' Manipulation on Trial. It's 20 minutes well spent. Now, we're not going to go over the entire 20 minutes. I'm going to watch through a lot of this, and I'll highlight main parts. I'll probably pick 3 minutes most, maybe 3 to 4 minutes, probably around 3 minutes from these two videos, because I don't want you to just sit here and just watch another video on my video. I know that can be a little, it can be a little stale. So if you do want to watch these videos entirely, I will have the link in the description, but I do want to highlight some of the main parts, and then we will talk about it. So let's do that. So remember when I said some people think that the Hunt brothers led silver to $50? Well, this paragraph is saying why the 1970s silver price spike was not simply down to the Hunt brothers. A common argument made is that the rise and spike in the silver price during the 1970s was simply down to the Hunt brothers cornering the market. That is controlling so much silver physical and futures that they could manipulate the price higher. And that's exactly what Wallstreetsilver's trying to do as well. So, however, some numbers demonstrate this likely to not be the case. At their peak, the Hunt brothers. So they controlled about 250 million ounces of silver, 100 million in physical, and 150 in futures contracts. That's a lot. And most reports conclude this is why silver skyrocketed in the 1970s. How much of the silver market did they control? Several reports estimate the Hunt's stash equaled 20% of the silver supply. One account claimed it was 1/3 of the global supply. Really? I mean, come on, that's not possible. According to the 2018 Silver Yearbook, the CPM group was roughly 2.8 billion ounces of the above ground investable silver in 1980. So the Hunts controlled about 8.9% of investable silver at their peak. That figure, however, excludes rare coins and all silver used in jewelry, silverware, decorative items, etc. Throw all that in there, we're probably looking at something like 12 billion. And that's the above ground stock. If that figure is correct, then the Hunts controlled about 2% of the total world silver supply at the time. In either case, it's still a lot, but to be sure, it hardly matches how most mainstream articles portray the extent of their holdings. Now, anyways, let's look at this. Now, what today's precious metals buyers can learn from the Hunts' mistakes. So let's look at this. Taking physical possession, the problems with using leverage, and finally how the fundamentals are different, even stronger today than in the 1970s. And that is interesting to say. The fundamentals are talking about supply and demand even being stronger. And I guess that would be the case when we're looking at the silver shortage, right? I just made a video the other day talking about the below ground supply of silver versus the above ground supply of silver versus the global production, and literally showed when we are going to run out of silver. And that was a very interesting video. But regardless, yes, supply and demand, the fundamentals are going to keep getting stronger and stronger, and that's why premiums are getting higher and higher. Before, the fundamentals weren't as strong, and that's why the premiums weren't really strong. So anyways, let's dive into this video.
I would like to tell you the real story of the Hunt brothers. Unlike everything that you have heard, they were not out to corner the market to make some quick profits. They were out to do what you are probably doing today. The silver bullet and the silver shield is the idea that you should be selling all of your paper assets and buying real physical silver. This physical silver will act as a silver bullet against all the things that are wrong with this world, and will act as a silver shield to protect your wealth. Quite simply, what the Hunts were doing was exactly that. They were out to protect their wealth, change the balance of power away from the bankers and politicians that were sliding the country into a collectivist nightmare back in the 70s. The Hunts were very successful and patriotic men that deeply believe that our republic is the best system ever devised on earth, and it offers opportunities to all. They despised the Washington and Wall Street establishment that was headed by their arch nemesis, the Rockefellers. The Hunts were also a huge benefactor in the early stages of the Libertarian Party that Ron Paul seems to epitomize today. Bunker Hunt was an enthusiastic proponent of the idea that all currency should be backed by precious metals like gold and silver. The advantage of remonetization of gold and silver, as the concept is known, the governments cannot casually print money to pay for deficits in their spending unless they have sufficient gold or silver to spend. Since precious metals are in limited supply, remonetization acts as a brake to government spending, which they clearly saw with the guns and butter programs of the 1970s. The Hunts sought to create a silver cartel, similar to that of OPEC, that would shake the debt-based financial establishment of Washington and Wall Street. Bunker Hunt thought of a way to make this happen by issuing silver-backed bonds that could be redeemed for silver instead of cash. There was even rumors that they wanted the Republic of Texas to create their own silver money in the face of runaway inflation from Washington and Wall Street. Bunker Hunt simply wanted assets that came from the earth that were needed for industry rather than a paper fortune that was steadily depreciating under the weight of dollar bills flowing from the printing presses at the Treasury. They were particularly sensitive to this since their oil contracts were denominated in dollars. During the 1970s, the Hunt brothers were heavy hitters, betting one big business deal after another, including oil, real estate, for which they had 5 million acres throughout the world, cattle, sugar, football, and even pizza parlors. Their Libyan oil leases of the late 1960s and early 70s were bringing in $30 million a year in revenues, even when oil was at $3 a barrel. In 1970, when silver was $1.50 an ounce, Bunker Hunt decided to invest there as well. At the time, it was illegal for U.S. citizens to own gold, so silver became the natural second choice.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? It really does make sense why they were buying so much silver. Now, they might have had ulterior motives. Maybe it's a win-win situation, because look at Wallstreetsilver. They're seen as the good guys because they're buying all the silver. They're almost trying to corner the market the same, from the same perspective as the Hunt brothers, but they're seen as the good guys. Where back in the day, they were seen as the bad guys. Now, yes, it's pretty interesting that the Hunt brothers tried to do a lot more. I mean, they were saying the Bunker was trying to turn silver back into money with certificates and doing all this stuff. I mean, it's pretty fascinating to see, the lengths, the extent they went to do this. Now, when we're looking at the reality of this, I do think something has happened over time of why back then they were looked at as almost like criminals, and nowadays Wallstreetsilver is looked at as heroes, because the times have changed. Economics has changed. Our financial system has changed. Nowadays, everyone knows how corrupt our financial system is. Back in the day, they tried to hold it up to a higher standard. They tried to put on that mask. But nowadays, nobody can argue it. I mean, it's blatantly obvious, right? I mean, times are a lot different. Now, I am still curious about a couple of things, right? Because yes, they owned a lot of silver physically and on digitally or paper markets. But what happened for them to actually, I mean, just like spoofing. This is a perfect example, right? This is a perfect example. Spoofing is when you place false buy orders on these exchanges and cancel the order before it goes through, right? So JP Morgan, two of their employees got sent to prison. It's a punishable crime. They're looking back at several different banks, Dutch Bank, Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan, several years, I mean decades, millions and millions, if not billions of dollars in doing this manipulation tactic. But how can you tell if someone is spoofing? Can you answer that right now? You can't, because you're allowed to cancel orders on these exchanges. You're allowed to. So how can you tell when someone's doing it with ill intent? How can you tell? You're allowed to cancel orders, but you're not allowed to cancel orders with the intent to purposely cancel it. So anyone could cancel orders knowing that they're going to cancel it, but just say I wanted to cancel it, right? So you have to look at patterns. You have to look at a lot of different things, and it's hard to tell. Just like with the Hunt brothers, who says they're not just buying silver as a hedge against inflation? Why or how can you tell if they're doing this just to corner the market and not just as they're investing? So I do want to dig a little deeper. I'm going to look for that in these videos, and then I'll show that, because besides that, the rest of it's kind of just, I don't want to get too much with the little things, right? I want to get to the main points of this stuff. So let's do it. Now, I just found some huge news, some huge information. I'm not even going to explain it to you. I'm just going to let you watch it.
With delivery to be taken that fall. In the fall of 1979, the price of silver doubled from $8 to $16 in only 2 months. Other syndicates with big money behind them started buying silver. The COMEX and the CBOT started to panic. In 1979, the warehouses of the two exchanges only held 120 million ounces of silver, and that was the amount that was traded in October alone. Many people, including the Hunts through their International Metal Investment Group, were taking delivery on all their contracts. October 6, 1979, Paul Volcker introduced the first stage of anti-inflationary measures when the Federal Reserve requested that the American banks avoid loans for speculation, especially in commodities. The brothers were starting to fear another confiscation by the United States government, FDR style, since things were coming to a head. Late 1979, the CBOT changed the rules and stated no investor could hold more than 3 million ounces of silver contracts, and the margin requirement was to be raised. All contracts over 3 million ounces per trader must be liquidated by February of 1980. Bunker Hunt accused the COMEX and the CBOT board members of having financial interest in the silver market themselves. Investigations later found that many had substantial silver short positions and were hemorrhaging money as Bunker sought to squeeze the market. Bunker knew that a shortage now existed, or they would not be screaming so loudly. He bought even more. The price on the last day of 1979 was $34.45. At this point, Bunker and Herbert held 40 million ounces in Switzerland and 90 million ounces of bullion they jointly owned through International Metals. In addition to all of that, International Metals had contracts for another 90 million ounces due for March delivery from the COMEX. The younger brother, Lamar, had even entered the arena and had taken a $300 million silver position by the end of 1979. Finally, on January 7th of 1980, the COMEX changed the rules to only allow 10 million ounces of contracts per trader, and that contracts over that amount must be liquidated before February 18th. The CFTC promptly backed up that ruling. On January 17th, silver hit $50 and Bunker continued to buy. At that point in time, the Hunt silver position was worth over $4.5 billion, bringing their profits into silver at $3.5 billion. On January 21st, the COMEX announced that they were suspending trading of silver, they would only accept liquidation orders, and silver dropped $10 an ounce and stayed around $39 until the end of January. Scrap silver, old silver coins, and silverware came into the market, about 22 million.
I mean, holy crap. Talk about a lot of stuff happening in a short amount of time. Talk about the government twisting and turning all these regulations and all these rules. And it's crazy because you can see the Hunt brothers were exposing a lot, and they didn't want that. And you even saw when Bunker found out, hey, there is a silver shortage, they wouldn't be screaming like this. And it's insane to look at, especially since while all of this was happening, the price of silver was just shooting up higher and even eventually led to $50 while he was still buying it. I mean, it's just so crazy. And the part I was telling you about earlier is they only held like 150 million ounces or something along those lines. And the contracts in October were that alone. And that's how much they owned entirely. And you saw it said that Bunker tried to turn in all of his contracts to delivery, and now you're seeing the same thing today happen, where the COMEX just rejected someone for physical delivery. I mean, there's a lot of patterns here. A lot of things are happening, and you even talked about FDR, that he put an end to that. Remember, he changed the gold to silver ratio from 16-1 to 75-1. And then they said they made a statement or a change as soon as he started buying more, that you could only hold 3 million ounces or whatever, then it has to be liquidated. And remember, there was a time when it was illegal to hold gold. There was times where they could confiscate your gold. Now, it's not like they kick in your front door and grab your safe, but it was illegal, and you did have to turn it in to the banks, and you would get, you would get recompensated for it. They'll pay you. But still, you can see how over time these things happen, and you can see how today, how much more extreme it could be. I mean, back then, there was a lot of similarities to now, but nowadays, I see a lot more potential, a lot more opportunity, especially since they can't keep pulling this mask over the people's eyes. I mean, back then, yes, it was the first time this ever happened, right? 2011, similar, but nowhere near the type of situation we're in today, especially with Wallstreetsilver and what the banks are trying to do. Now, does it make sense why banks don't like silver, or why they try to tell you that silver is a bad investment, even though they're buying a lot of it? Same thing with them back then. He even said, a whole bunch of banks were in these short positions. So I don't see how any of this is going to get anywhere except for silver to go up. I mean, at the end of the day, None of this is going to go in the bank's favor, and that's just something that they have to deal with because they set it up that way. If you want people to believe in your system, then you have to be truthful, and all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes is going to bite you in the butt, and it finally is. The USD is the world's reserve currency. People are seeing, especially from the situation that's happened over the last 2 years, that America's actually broke. Countries are opting out of the USD, and that's just something they have to deal with. And that's also why, like the Hunt brothers, are investing into tangible assets, precious metals, so we don't have to keep our hard-earned money in something that's just slowly withering away. They can try to give us false hope or these promises that things are going to get better from the FOMC, but it's not. That's not a reality. And anyone who does believe that stuff, I feel bad. But anyways, I do think that this was a very interesting story. Now, there's a lot more to it than this as well. The link's in the description if you want to check out any of these things. There's even another article that goes into it even deeper. So here's a chart I wanted to show real quick. So they accumulated 200,000 ounces of silver in 1973. And then by 1979, they buy over 43 million ounces of silver futures. Then the price doubles to $16 an ounce, then climbs to 34 right after they buy 43 million ounces of silver futures. And then you can see March 25th, the brothers shut down their bet on silver. Silver prices fell 50%. So you can see that they actually highly likely are affecting the price, especially not only with their money alone, but also when people hear this stuff, when they see the volume on the COMEX, when they hear, their strategy, just like when they shut down their bet, prices fall 50%, right? That's not just from them alone. That's probably people also selling since they heard they are. But then you can see January 17th, 1980, silver hits $50. But then what happens? They shut down their bet on silver. Silver prices fall 50%. So you can see how it is very interesting to see the correlation between their decision making and the markets. Now, Wallstreetsilver isn't going to have anywhere near the amount of pull because these people were extremely wealthy. Now, do wealthy people invest into silver? Yes, but from the same type of goal, from the same type of plan that these guys did, I don't think so. But that doesn't matter. Right? That doesn't matter because at the end of the day, whether they throw $300 million or 300,000 ounces or whatever, we can't keep up. The dollar cannot keep up with something that is becoming more scarce. And as people realize the dollar index, as people realize the hedge against inflation, as people realize the hyperinflation, and more money is going to keep pouring into silver every single day. I mean, look how many new stackers there are. And a lot of it is from Wallstreetsilver. But that's just from Wallstreetsilver. Think when the price of silver rises, news articles, YouTube videos, right? Everyone's talking about it. So people naturally, they naturally get curious. And then they get hooked when they realize, hey, silver actually is the perfect investment since the dollar is collapsing. That's why it makes sense. People could hear about stocks, people hear about Bitcoin all the time, but they it goes in one ear out the other. But when you hear about silver, it sticks. And that's why there's so many people from Wallstreetsilver that are still stacking, and they're not selling at the first sign of a decline. They're stackers for good. And if you want proof of that, go on Wallstreetsilver and look at all the real stackers that are not selling anytime soon. They're holding for the long term. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about this because it is a very interesting it is a very interesting story. This story has a very impactful play on the silver community, the silver market, and it taught us a lot. So anyways, this is what happens when you try to corner the market. Here's how the saga ended. So let's see, this could be some insight of what Wallstreetsilver is going to experience or what they already did experience for those 3 days. But anyways, let's look at this. So 1980, the commodity exchanges with support from the U.S. government announced that no one could buy any more silver. Investors could only sell, and only sales to exchange-approved buyers were allowed. Think about that. The exchanges had changed the rules, and there was nothing the Hunts could do about it. They couldn't buy any more silver, and if they sold massive holdings, they risked triggering a panic. On January 22nd, the price of silver plummeted to $34 an ounce. The Hunts desperately looked for ways to prop up silver's price. However, on March 14th, their time ran out. The rules changed yet again. I mean, it is insane to think about the amount of just shadiness that goes on with the governments trying to keep silver down, right? And there's no other reason they're trying to keep silver down, because they know they don't have enough silver. If people keep buying it and buying it, there won't be any, and that's why they won't let you buy it. They'll only let you sell it. And yes, they want you to sell it to them so they can restock up. So Bunker Hunt has always denied that he intended to corner the market. When his wife demanded answers after the fiasco, he famously replied, "I was just trying to make some money." So cornering the market's a myth. For one thing, few investors have enough capital to corner a market. Virtually all attempts to corner a commodity market have failed. So to leverage borrowing kills. So had the Hunt brothers stuck with just buying silver bullion, they would have survived. But they did do a lot of they did the most, and that is true, right? They tried to leverage commodity contracts where they borrowed money to invest. Was their downfall. Leverage can earn you high returns, but they magnify the losses from falling prices. So yes, if they would have just bought silver, physical bullion, I think they would have been fine as well. Overconfidence trips up even the best. The Hunt family had experienced a long series of spectacular investment success. They were fortunate, some might say lucky. Their judgment was clouded by their own sense of invulnerability. 4, have an exit plan, right? 5, house rules may change, and that is definitely true. I mean, that's especially with what we're dealing with, right? We're talking about silver, which is a direct threat to the U.S. dollar, right? 6, politics and trading don't mix. So over the 35 years later, U.S. dollar still hasn't collapsed, though some always think its demise is imminent. Meanwhile, in nominal terms, that is without counting for inflation, the price of silver is about where it was when the Hunts began buying. So anyways, that's a very interesting story. I know this video is pretty long, but there's a lot to this. If you've stuck around this far in the video, if you're hearing me say this right now, I can guarantee that you are an extremely smart stacker. I can guarantee that if you are listening to this video right now, if you've watched this far through, that you are someone that has an incredible stacking strategy. And if you don't yet, you are going to, because you have sat through, you're listening to details, you're listening to my insight, you're getting what you need to out of, what to learn from this. I mean, seriously, like that shows. Most people would click off this video within 2 or 3 minutes. But if you've watched this far, I truly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I truly thank you. But not only that, I believe in you. I truly do, right? It shows a lot. Actions speak louder than words. Anyone could say they know everything. Anyone could say they know the Hunt brothers story. But if you sat here and watched all this and actually, soaked all this in, you're the winner. You're the person that's going to come out on top, because knowledge is everything when it comes to investing. It's a strategy, right? You're strategizing. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Like this video if you thought it was educational, informational, at least entertaining. Make sure to smash the like button. I post daily videos. I'm going to keep you in the loop every single day. I'm doing a 47K giveaway. Lots of new stuff coming. So yeah, I appreciate you all for tuning in, especially if you stuck around this long in the video. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.